Looking to transform your family game nights? At Perfectly Picked Games, we specialize in family games that bring everyone closer. Our games aren't just fun. Kids and teens will learn how to take turns, develop basic strategy skills, and understand the thrill of winning and grace of losing. With our exclusive gift of games, you can give months of gaming excitement to your family. Choose a 3-month or 6-month gift, and we'll deliver hand-picked family games to your doorstep every month. And here's the best part. Right now, you can use the promo code GOLDENMOJO and receive 20% off your selected plan. Don't miss out on this exclusive offer. Use promo code GOLDENMOJO and save 20% today at Perfectly Picked Games.
Welcome to the United States of Paranormal Podcast. Sit down and buckle up for an enlightening ride through everything cryptid, creepy, and paranormal.
Hello, all of my paranormal freaks out there. It is I, Golden J, hanging out with
the Rocker Chick.
And we might be missing a partner tonight.
Oh, yeah, she might be not here.
She has got a horse emergency. There is no other way to say it than she has a horse emergency, and she was unable to make it tonight. Which I know she was bummed because we have Steve Cecchin in with us tonight. You may know him from documentaries about the Indiana State Sanatorium, and his name is synonymous with the Indiana State Sanatorium. And now let me get this right. Did you guys change the name, or is it still Billie Creek Village, or did you just downsize it to Billie Creek?
Downsize it to Billie Creek because the website for Billie Creek Village, the domain is registered to a guy who is in a nursing home and he has dementia and he cannot remember his password.
Oh, no.
So our solution was we changed it to Billie Creek.
Well, perfect. Steve, thank you so much for joining us. I know that we had tried to do this once before, and we had some missed emails and so on and so forth. But I want to thank Brian Greer for all of his, actions and aid in getting us to you and you to us. And man, I am super stoked and to talk to you today because we know Indiana State Sanatorium as one of the most haunted places in the Midwest. And from a lot of the things that I have watched and seen and read, from my side of it, it does not disappoint. But I am excited to hear your viewpoint on the sanatorium, and then maybe a little bit later we can talk a little bit more about Billie Creek.
Sure.
Awesome. So now you are a part of hold on, let me make sure I get this right, the Sanatorium Project. And Greg Larson is like the owner of that, right? I mean, he is like the CEO. Now, do I consider you like the CFO because you kind of put a financial tag on your name, or? I'm
not the CFO, but I'm the business manager.
Okay.
I'm the director of operations.
Okay, so awesome.
Events that we run at Billie Creek and at the Indiana State Sanatorium, I coordinate them between the guests that arrive and the event coordinators.
So you are 100% hands-on when it comes down to getting everybody in and around, and wow, that makes you a busy man, doesn't it?
Well, because we have Billie Creek Village, we have the Indiana State Sanatorium. We also have the Stark Saloon, which is about 30 minutes away.
Okay.
Another property, which is coming online soon. It's a 20,000 square foot jail that was built in 1932, I believe, maybe 1936. It was built by the same guy that built Alcatraz.
Oh, wow.
When you walk through it, if you've ever been to Alcatraz, it's like almost the exact same, the way the doors close and everything. And that is also about 30 minutes away. Very creepy place because it's been abandoned for about 30 years.
Mm.
Somebody bought it and kind of lived in it as her house.
Oh,
And she is looking to, she wanted to do like kind of paranormally stuff there, but the county wouldn't let her because she's zoned residential.
right.
So you just have to go through the process to change your zoning, which she was unfamiliar with. So I won't go into more details as to where it is because we don't own it yet. But
Right.
I would say in the next 30 to 60 days, we probably will own it. And with minimal work, it'll be ready for investigating.
Nice. Very nice. What was she saying that she had a lot of activity in this place, was she? Or
She has had some activity there. I think she said about 12 inmates died
oh, right on.
in the building while it was there. And before they built that building, that location had the county jail on it from like the 1880s, I think.
Right on.
And then in, I think it was about the 90s, late 90s, the town built a new modern facility like closer to the courthouse.
Right on.
This building was no longer used as a jail, and she bought it and was like, oh, it's kind of neat. And she wasn't sure what she was going to do with it.
Right.
She ended up living in it with her kids, raised kids, and now that her kids are gone, she doesn't need a giant abandoned jail.
Listen, I would think
Wow.
that would be perfect to
We also
raise a
just bought the
family.
Presbyterian church in town, and we have the dairy barn, which is attached to the Indiana State Sanatorium, where we're going to be doing premier weddings.
Right
So
on.
we've got 6 different properties that we're juggling right now. So
You are keeping busy. I would think that an old jail would be the perfect place to raise a family because if the kids piss you off, you could just lock the door.
well, and there are plenty of solitary confinement cells.
Oh,
Wow,
see,
that is so crazy. I don't think I'd want to live in a jail, but that would
I
probably.
don't know. Would it be much different than, like, say, living in a church? I mean,
I actually kind of considered living in that church because it's a big enough building.
Yeah.
You know, it has the sanctuary in the front.
right.
There's a pretty big area in the back, which could be a living area, and there's a couple of offices, which could be bedrooms.
Right,
There's
right.
a basement, which has a big commercial kitchen, and a big area that like kids could play.
Absolutely.
Hockey, or you
Oh.
could get to the wedding and have 100 people sit down there. So.
Right.
Very cool.
Yeah, it would make for a great event center. I know that we have one close to us that was an old church that they built a whole back area on. The church actually built it on and turned it into the with all the pews and the stuff like that. But when they kind of closed up, somebody come in and bought it and turned it into an event center, and it's just a very big open space that's perfect for weddings and stuff like that. But so let's talk about the Sanatorium Project a little bit more. I know with all these things you got going on, but so Greg decided that he wanted to buy the sanatorium basically just to refurb it, right? I mean, he was planning on coming in and revitalizing it, bringing it back to life.
So Greg is a founder of a medieval sword fighting group that started about 30 years ago.
Okay.
And they do sword fighting as a sport. So it's kind of like if you're familiar with airsoft or paintball, it's kind of like that, but with swords.
Okay.
And so he's been running events where 500, 800, 1,000 people will come to it and do outdoor camping. So that was the reason that he bought this property, is because there are quite a few large fields here, areas that we could develop for parking and for, public restrooms and that kind of thing.
Right, right.
So that was the motivation for buying the property. He and I together used to own a campground in Illinois where we ran events similar to this. And we sold that in 2008. And then Greg was familiar with the area here. He lives about an hour west of here. And so he was looking around for property to run these kind of events. And then the realtor said, well, I got kind of like, what are you looking for? He's like, like a big piece of property with some fields and maybe some buildings on it that we could use. We're historic restorationists.
Right
So we
on.
like to restore old buildings. He's like, there's a couple old buildings, there that we could restore. That would be nice. And she is like, well, there's this place. You got to come and see. So she brought him out here. And initially he was like, this place is too big. So there's about 20 buildings here. Like 1.5 of the buildings were already ready to go.
Okay.
So one of the houses was ready for somebody to live in. And then there's a big commercial building that we use as an office. And it was kind of ready to go. Somebody had stripped out the copper. So we had to put in new, heating and air conditioning, kind of do some little bit of rewiring. But for the most part, the building was pretty sound and ready to go. But other than that, the rest of the buildings are raw and unused for, 10 or 12 years before we took over the project. So
Right on. Yeah, because stop me if I'm wrong, but when they closed it down, it was a nursing home and a mental institution, correct?
that is correct. Yeah.
And they left pretty much everything inside of it. They just closed it, and they just sent everybody out and closed and shut the doors, and they left a bunch of stuff inside of there, right?
They did. That's kind of the end of the history piece of it, but they closed in 2011. The state came in and forcibly closed the property because for a variety of reasons. One is that there were a lot of financial issues. They were behind in their property taxes. They were behind in their mortgage. They were behind in their payroll. But patient care-wise, there were several allegations of abuse and neglect that were being investigated. A couple of years before that, in 2008, there was a very public incident where one of the employees shot and killed another employee and then committed suicide.
Oh, wow.
On the property. So the state came in and basically said, you guys you're in over your heads with this. I know of about 35 or 40 patients that died that probably shouldn't have died if they were cared for better, watched more closely. So the state came in and forcibly closed it.
Right on.
And they either relocated the patients to other facilities, but the majority of the patients, they, upon reevaluating them, they decided that they weren't really that bad, and they just released them. They put them on buses to other parts of Indiana and released them. So, and then why the state left all the stuff here is beyond me. The offices still have computers on the desks. They left mountains of paper medical records here.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
All of the patient rooms have beds in them with dressers and chairs. As each patient left, they packed up a suitcase for them to go. But some people had more than one suitcase worth of stuff, and so that stuff was left here. So some of the rooms have clothes in the dressers or hanging in the closets. A lot of the bedside tables have books or birthday cards or eyeglasses or shoes, toiletries, just a lot of stuff was left here.
That is so weird. I mean, you would think that they would pack up some more of the toiletries I could understand, that's just, whatever, but eyeglasses or shoes or I think I saw in that documentary that there were still notes and drawings and stuff that were taped to the wall, and they left all that stuff.
Models are still there. Or when somebody puts a puzzle together and then they kind of tape it together and make a picture out of it.
Right.
Those are all over the place. But not only personal effects, they left equipment. All of these beds that have motors that lift.
Right.
They're not cheap. And you would think, there's 250 of those beds here that the state, once they took over the property, would have sold that stuff at auction to put towards the financial strain that the property had. They left a big city bus here that the property owned to take the patients into to go to the zoo or to go into town for shopping trips. They left the bus here. They had a couple of limousines that they used to take patients to, if they had to go off site to go to a specialist doctor. They left those 2 limousines here. There was a big bucket truck that they used for pruning trees that they left here. I mean,
Wow.
It wasn't just that. And I mean, I found a room that had 500 paint cans in it, that some had a tenth of a gallon, but some were unopened. So, I mean, I found a room that had $15,000 worth of paint
Wow.
Abandoned. We found rooms and rooms of tools and medical equipment. There's a 1920s X-ray machine which is still here. They just left everything. So
Yeah, just the trucks and the buses alone, you would think they could have recouped quite a bit of financial gain on those.
Something at least.
Something. So basically, when you guys ended up with it, you just inherited all of it.
Yep.
Well, if you need a tree trim, Steve might be your guy because it sounds like he's got a truck.
Yeah. It doesn't run anymore, but
oh, the good times, I'm sure, out there playing on that. That doesn't go anywhere, but we just jump in the bucket and. Oh, so how is the restoration going at this point? Or have we kind of paused that because of the ghost tours and stuff that you guys are able to do?
No. The ghost tours actually are what fuel the restoration project. Because
right on.
Initially, when we bought the property in 2021, it was going to be just Greg and I. We were going to run events here, and in our spare time, try to restore one of the buildings, maybe two of the buildings,
right,
for the rest of our lives. I mean,
right.
Because, two guys on a 6,000 square foot house, you could work for 10 years and not finish.
Right. Exactly.
But because we do ghost tours at night, we do we call it day roaming during the day, where people can come and do a self-guided tour, go through the properties. And when the weather's nice on a Saturday, we'll get 120, 150, up to 200 visitors here just for the day. And many of them help the project along by buying T-shirts and sweatshirts. And so that has fueled our ability to restore the buildings because we've been able to hire more people.
Right on.
Right now we have 8 construction personnel that work on the buildings, and we have about 20 total employees. So we have somebody that manages our website. We have one young lady that just makes T-shirts for us. We've got some housekeeping staff to change the beds because one of our buildings has beds that people could stay in when they visit, and landscapers and all that. We've got a mechanic now that takes care of all of our equipment. We opened up a coffee shop at Billie Creek, so we've got a staff of baristas now that work there. And,
oh wow!
So the ghost tours gives us the money because Greg is the owner of the property. And every penny that comes in, whether it be from, admittance to an event or people that are here for ghost hunting or somebody that buys a T-shirt, every penny goes back into the project, into restoring everything. So.
Right on. That's amazing. I'm glad you guys are able to do that. It's awesome because, it is a historical land site. Truly. And I know that the pictures I've seen, the place is massive. So 10 years on one building, and you got, what do you say, 20 buildings on there?
20 buildings. Counting all the little garages and shit.
Right. It's going to take a while. It's going to take your guys' funding. So get down there, do a day roam, buy a T-shirt, head over to Billie Creek, get some coffee. Damn. Do it up.
So there's a 6,000 square foot house that was the superintendent's residence, and we just nicknamed it the mansion because it's enormous.
Right.
And for the last couple of years, we've been working on that building. We're restoring it to its original condition and turning it into a bed and breakfast.
Oh, nice.
So when people come out here to ghost hunt, they'll have modern amenities that they can stay in with showers and bathrooms, a media center, their own kitchen. And that project should be done sometime this summer.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. I never really thought about it because, you think about a property like that is, older and weathered, I guess is the easiest thing to say. You think about people go there, they do their ghost hunt, and then they leave. But to be able to have that on property, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to go home.
Our office building, we've turned the offices into like bedrooms.
Right.
They just have a bed and there's a common bathroom. And just having the ability to be able to crash and sleep before you drive home. Because we get people that come here from all over the world.
Right.
We had a paranormal team that came out last year from Japan and stayed 10 days here.
Oh, wow.
They have a really big YouTube channel there. Here, most of the paranormal YouTube channels are like documentary style, and this one was more of like a movie style where they filmed a movie here.
Really?
But we have people that come here, you know, we've had people from New Zealand, we've had people from Australia, all over the country. People will come here from Canada, drive for 12, 14 hours just to come to the sanatorium, stay and do their investigation, and turn around and drive home. So
Oh, wow.
having the ability to sleep here apparently is not very common in the paranormal community, because most of the other locations, you know, you go in and then you do your investigation and then you got to leave by a certain time.
Right.
Yeah, you have like a 2-hour or 4-hour window and you're done.
Absolutely.
And here, our window, nobody has to leave until we rent it for the next evening. So when guests arrive at 5 p.m., they're welcome to stay until 5 p.m. the next day. So some people do take us up on that, and they sleep in the rooms and then get up in the morning, and then they have access to the buildings all day. And, you know, the paranormal experts tell me that ghosts don't only come out at night, they come out during the day too. So they go into the buildings with their equipment and they get readings during the day just like they do at night. So
I'm loving what you guys are doing. I'm loving what you guys are doing. This is amazing.
Now I just want to go. It sounds like a vacation.
Well, I know that our friends
those
from
they can't see us. Just like Jeremy's face is very expressive as far as like when I'm talking, he's just like, "What? I can't believe that. Is it really like you could do that?" So
yeah, no kidding.
yeah. So
It's I
Lost for words.
I am. Can you imagine that? Me at a loss for words. That's fucked up, big time. I'm so used to the other way. I'm exactly, you know. Waverly is the exact same way. You go in and you get out. You have a time slot, and that's what you got. When we were at the Fowler, we were fortunate enough to be with Dwight and Brian, and you know, we basically made our own schedule. I mean, they were there to just to let us do what we do. So I think that's great what you guys are doing, and I love the idea that you are making it more and more easy for people to be able to do these overnight investigations and not be burnt out and not have, you know, trouble going home, you know, because they've been up all night, you know, investigating, or, you know, getting the pants scared off of them, or whatever the case may be. But
another thing we started doing this year is we bought a couple of houses that were turning into Airbnbs. We're putting together packages, because a lot of groups, like I just had a group last week that was here from Colorado. They drove here from Colorado in a big RV, and they were going to 7 different locations over like 12 days or 3 weeks, I think it was. But so having an Airbnb here where somebody can come and do Billie Creek one night, go to during the day to the sanatorium, spend the night at the sanatorium, and then go to the Stark Saloon and now possibly the jail.
right.
You know, we're putting together a package where you can go to 4 locations, spend 3 nights in the Airbnb, or 4 nights, you know, so at the end of your investigation, you can, you know, crash before you go home, and then kind of wrapping that all up into one big package for you. So we've had a few people take us up on that, and they come, they do 2 or 3 of the locations in consecutive nights, and then stay in some of our amenities here.
Amazing. So, okay, so you mentioned Japan. You mentioned the group from Japan that came through, but you guys have had some pretty high profile ghost hunters come through the sanatorium. What has been your favorite group to work with that has been through?
My favorite. That's a tough question, because there was one guy who has come, and his name is CJ Faison. He has a pretty good following. He does other things besides paranormal investigations. So, and I know he just had a baby recently, so I don't think he's had videos out recently.
Right on.
But I really liked him because he was a down to earth guy, entrepreneur. He owned 3 or 4 different businesses, but also B, he was the jumpiest ghost hunter I've ever met. Like, the first night I met him, so I checked him in, told him where to go. He had a guy with him. The 2 guys were investigating. And then I was cleaning up the bathroom at the end of the night. And I heard them come in. And so I went out to go talk to them. And they screamed and ran. And I was like, what? So I went out. I was like, hey, what are you guys doing? And they came back, because they came in the building. And they were like, did you hear something? And then I turned the light off, and they were like, the light turned off. And then they said this shadowy figure like came at them, and I'm like, yeah, because they came out of the bathroom because they turned the light off. And I scared the bejesus out of them. So then we talked for a long time, and then I was like, man, it's like midnight. Don't you guys have to go up and film? And they're like, yeah, but we're kind of scared because. And he told me, he's like, I've been to every place you can be in this country legally, and I've been to half the places that are haunted that you can't go to legally. He's like, I've never been freaked out like I've been freaked out up here.
Really?
So they were like afraid to go back up to film because of what they've already experienced. So then that night they stayed on our property, and then they went to another property where we know the owners. And she texted me the next day, and she's like, what did you do to CJ? What? She said that they were in bed, fully clothed, with their shoes on, with the sheets up like this, and they laid there for a while.
Oh, my.
5 o'clock in the morning, like, well, since we're not sleeping, let's just leave.
Oh.
So they drove to her location in Ohio, and she's like, they got there way earlier than they expected because she thought they would sleep until like noon and then show up, like in the afternoon. But they got there early in the morning. We're like, the sanatorium is so bizarre. And just the experiences that they had. So he's been back 5 or 6 times. He came back for a week and put out 5 videos for 5 different buildings. So one video was just of the superintendent's mansion. Another video was just of the nursing home. Another one was just of the psychiatric hospital. So he put out 5 videos, and then there was a bonus video which kind of wrapped up everything that he did while he was here. And so I've always enjoyed him. I would say he's probably my favorite just because he's been here. The number of nights that he's been here, he's probably been here 12 or 13 nights.
Right.
Wow.
So I know him because there were many times where it was him and his 2 guys, and then during the day, like we just were talking and getting history and everything. But then, I mean, I've spent dozens and dozens of hours working with him. So.
And what did he say was some of his experiences that freaked him out so bad?
Well, a lot of experiences, and many, many people have told me very similar stories. There are a lot of experiences on the property that are what most people consider normal, friendly experiences, where they'll have a conversation through a spirit box, or they'll get EVP readings or anything like that. But there are a couple locations where violent patients were kept in the mental hospital, and those locations, CJ and other people have reported to me more intense experiences. It's probably the best way to explain it. I wouldn't say violent experiences because ghosts aren't really real, and if they are real, I don't believe in ghosts, by the way.
Good segue.
So, but if ghosts are real, I don't believe that they can like push you down the stairs or anything. I mean, maybe they can. I don't know. I don't not believe in ghosts, but I just haven't had any experience that the only explanation is that it was a ghost. But people have had a lot of experiences of like a rushing feeling, like a ghost is coming right at you, wants you to get out of here. Then when they get readings, they'll be like, leave now, go home, leave us alone, that kind of thing. That gets reported to me many, 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 many times. And, when you're by yourself or only with one other person and you have an experience like that both people share, like they both saw the same thing, then, that could freak them out. So.
Yes, I want to make this very clear. When you guys purchased, when the project purchased the or however that worked, when you guys put this together, it wasn't the fact that you knew this place was haunted. You guys got it for events and so on and so forth. And then you kind of got into the whole knowledge of it being haunted. But Steve does not believe in ghosts. But he might be teetering a little bit from our earlier conversation. He might be just rolling about in that 10%? Is that what you said?
Yeah, there are 2 stories in particular that people have reported to me specifically, like detail for detail for detail, in the exact same spot, the exact same events in the same sequence. And I've had that reported to me 8 or 10 times.
Can you break it down? Can you break it down for us? Can you tell us?
I can if you want me to.
Oh, yeah.
So the first experience that I have no personal experience, and that's the other thing. When somebody tells me something, it's like, oh, well, okay, that happened to you. I wasn't there.
Right.
It's harder for me to believe something that somebody, that's a secondhand story.
Absolutely.
If I was there and it happened, I probably would be like,
I'm moving up to 50%.
Yeah.
So you've never had any unexplained experiences at any of the places that you...
I have unexplained experiences all the time. I haven't had an experience that the only explanation is that it's ghosts.
Okay.
So, for example, the first couple of years, we would do a walking tour with our guests when they came here at night. So I would walk them around the property and show them, we'd walk into the superintendent's mansion, kind of give them the lay of the land, walk through the tunnels. We have about a half a mile of tunnels you can walk through, go through the buildings. And at the end of the tour, everybody saw shadow people. We'd get into a hallway. They'd be like, oh my God, did you guys see that? We just saw shadow people over there. But it's like kind of dusk and the sun's going down and we're on the first floor of a building that's got trees outside and it's kind of windy and there's shadows everywhere. Did a shadow person come by? I'm not saying a shadow person didn't come by.
Right.
But it could have just been the leaves, right?
Right.
And so, another thing I hear all the time is, we heard a door slam upstairs. And we went upstairs and all the doors were open. Well, yeah, but the windows are also open because we're trying to keep the buildings ventilated so they don't get musty. None of the doors close and latch like a modern door does.
Right.
A little bit warped, They've been abandoned for 15 years now. So the doors slam and then bounce back open all the time. I mean, I watch it happen. So that, to me, when someone comes and says, a door slammed and we went there and all the doors were still open. So that means there was a ghost up there. Well, I have another explanation that could be what happened. I'm not saying a ghost didn't slam it. A ghost very well could have. I don't not believe in ghosts, but every experience that I've had personally has had another explanation. And sometimes it's not apparent. I had a thing the other day. So I'm in my house. It's one of the houses here on the property. And my girlfriend and I were sitting there, and our dogs were at a dog sitter for the night because we were leaving somewhere the next day. Or actually, no, I think we just got back. And we're like, well, we'll let the dog sitters keep the dogs for tonight. We'll have a peaceful night. We'll get them tomorrow. So we were sitting there, and we both smelled dog poop. Like all of a sudden, we smelled dog poop. We're like, well, how is there dog poop in the house? Dog. So we looked around. We didn't see anything, but we smelled it. I mean, it smelled bad. And then after literally 15 minutes later, it kind of went away. And we were like, oh, maybe the ghosts are kind of pissed at us for something. The next day, come to find out that the septic system outside had backed up.
Oh, no.
We didn't know it. So, the pipe that takes the sewage away from your house was full of sewage. And one of my caretakers had flushed his toilet, which gurgled it all up. And that's what we smelled. So we went to bed that night thinking, ghosts made our house stinky because they're mad at us or something. And
because you took the dogs away.
I don't believe it. And my solution was, well, maybe the ghost did it. Then the next day we found out a better explanation.
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah. The debunking the process is always a lot of fun to watch and be a part of, and so on and so forth. But
there's one of the buildings at Billie Creek. All those buildings are 100 years old or more.
Right.
And one of the buildings, when you walk in, the floor is kind of bouncy, right?
Uh-huh.
And then it opens the back latch and the back door swings open. So every time I go in there, they're like, oh my God, it's open. I'm like, stop. It's not paranormal. It's structural. I'm like, you see how bouncy the floor is? Watch, I'll do it again. And then we'll close the door, and I'll latch, and then I'll go to the front.
But you're going to leave it that way, aren't you?
Across.
Hell yeah, he's going to leave it that way.
So that's the thing. So since I don't believe in ghosts, I tell people that. Because they're like, well, why did you tell us? Why didn't you let us think it's ghosts? I'm like, because, man, there's so many weird things that happen here. I'm going to be honest with you. And the things that aren't paranormal, I'm going to tell you that aren't paranormal. And if you come up with something that I can't debunk and you can't debunk, maybe that's a thing, you know?
Well, you know what? Just sitting there thinking about it. That's what makes you guys, and the sanatorium and Billie Creek so great, because you guys are not sitting here saying this is the most haunted place in the Midwest, and you're not selling tickets to a place. The place itself has proven that of what it is, and you guys are not doing that where you're hyping it up or whatever. Right. You're there for the restoration of the property.
I have never said this is the most haunted place.
Right.
Around. What I have said is several paranormal experts, countrywide experts,
right?
Sam and Colby, Zach Baggins, several people have told me that this is the most haunted place they've ever been to.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
But I don't believe in ghosts.
Well, 10%. Come on, man. Give them the 10%.
Yeah. If you still want to hear those two
yes,
stories.
Yes. Sorry, we got you. We took you on a whole adventure in a different direction.
I could talk for hours. You've got to stop me. We're going,
You and me could be in trouble because I can talk for hours.
This is my job. My job is to promote the property, to talk about experiences, to give tours. So this is what I do. So the two experiences that have been reported to me many, many, many times. The first that I'm going to tell you is not something I've ever experienced personally.
Okay.
But groups have been here, and our psychiatric hospital is a 5-story building.
Mm-hmm.
And when someone rents the property exclusively at night, they're the only ones here. Their group is the only ones here. And if anybody else is here, then they're trespassing.
Right.
Which unfortunately happens occasionally.
Yes.
Right.
And we always tell them, this is what you do. And if if you see anybody, they're trespassing, call us. We'll take them to jail, blah, blah, blah. And so in the 5-story building, when our guests are on the first floor, they hear trespassers above them. It's usually a man and a woman, and they're laughing, like mocking the people downstairs that are ghost hunting. And there's 2 staircases for the building. So, at least 6 or 7 different groups have told me that they split into 2 groups, and they went up the stairs at the same time and came to the 2nd floor. Didn't find anybody because the people had moved up to the 3rd floor. So they did the same thing, went up to the 3rd floor. The people mocking them were on the 4th floor. They went up to the 4th. The people were on the 5th. They went up to the 5th. The people were on the roof. They went up to the roof. There was nobody there. So they spent the better part of 30 minutes chasing this man and woman who are talking, giggling. They couldn't make out the words, but they could hear that they were messing with them. And almost everybody thinks that they're trespassers. And they're like, hey, you're not supposed to be in the buildings. We rented the property. And they get to the roof and there's nobody there.
Right.
So I don't have an explanation for that. Because the first time I heard it, I was like, maybe one of your friends was messing with you. Because we get groups out here where there's one dude that's like, I'm going to scare the shit out of my friends tonight. So the first time I heard that, I was like, all right, one of your friends is messing with you. And then the second time I heard it, I was like, maybe that's a thing in the paranormal community. Because I'm not a paranormal investigator. I don't know. Maybe that's a thing where you tease your friends by getting above them. I don't know. But the 5th time I heard it, I was like, well, these people obviously don't know each other.
Right.
Not like they're like, hey, let's try to convince Steve that ghosts really exist and tell him the same story, And then the 7th, 8th, 9th time I've heard it, I'm like, man, I don't have an explanation for it. I mean, I've heard theories that, that they aren't really ghosts, that it's like an echo of something that happened in the past, because people lived in the buildings and men and women lived in the buildings together. This property has a place where the children's ward used to be. And I've had many people say that they've heard children there bouncing ball, laughing, and, maybe they're ghosts, but maybe it's like some sort of time warp, wormhole kind of echo of something that happened before. I don't know. Something paranormal is going on. Paranormal, it was explained to me, paranormal means we can't explain it.
Right.
So that is paranormal. Is it aliens that are messing with us by playing recordings? I don't know. Is it a wormhole and a time warp? I don't know. Is it ghosts? I don't know. Maybe everybody that goes in there, maybe there's mold in the walls and it affects our brains and we're having the same hallucination. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But then the second story, which I have experienced firsthand, on the first floor of the administration building, there's a big staircase, big red carpet. A lot of people that do their filmings, they do them in that location. And I was giving a tour to some non-paranormal people. They were camping up the road, wanting to see the neat old buildings.
Right.
And when we got to that spot, one of the girls was like, wait, I don't feel good. I feel lightheaded. And she ended up passing out. And her boyfriend was standing next to her, and he kind of caught her. She didn't like fall and get hurt or anything. But then we like got her outside and got her some fresh air. And she was so out of sorts that those two people left. And the rest of the group finished the tour. And then I remembered that like a year before that, we had a big public event here where a YouTube channel was filming there, and they had about 100 of their fans that came out and bought tickets and were there. And a girl had the exact same experience where she was in there. She felt lightheaded. She passed out. They brought her outside. She didn't really want to talk about it because she thought we were going to make her leave. You know, she's like, I paid for this ticket. I want to see my guys, you know.
Right.
And she had a pre-existing condition. I think she had a seizure disorder. I don't know if she had epilepsy or she had something else. And her passing out triggered a seizure. And,
right.
You know, so that was weird. But then somebody else told me that happened to them. And then I was with another group where in the exact same spot right at the base of the stairs, somebody got lightheaded and faint, and we got them outside. And then, like I said, about a month ago, a group that happened to where they were a paranormal team of 8, and the one lady got sick. You know what? Now they think of it, every single time it's been a lady.
Yeah.
One lady got sick.
Yep.
And she and her husband left, and they drove back to like Kentucky where they lived.
Oh, wow.
You know, they were here for like an hour and a half, and the rest of the team stayed, and they told me that in the morning. And I was like, man, that's like the 7th or 8th time that someone has said that right at the base of that staircase that a person has gotten faint and either passed out or close to passed out, got outside and didn't recover, and then like either stayed and toughed it out because they wanted to still be here, or had to leave the site because they were that. And just the second, every story I've heard has been a woman that's happened.
I believe that every story that I've read, because this happens in a lot of places, and with the stories that we do, you know, we dig into Reddit, and, you know, we want those personal experiences that people want to talk about. And and there's been several occasions where women Reddit users will post that they were in a place and they got to a certain point, and all of a sudden they had a headache and ringing in their ears, got lightheaded and felt nauseous. But as soon as they got out of the house or the building or whatever they were doing, then it just stopped. You know, it took a couple minutes, but eventually it stopped. Mm-hmm. And, you know, to be 100% honest, to debunk it, you know, it could be a mold thing. It could be a scent thing.
Right in that room, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you never really know. And that's what I love about the debunk thing is that, you know, you can just, it's not just ghost. It could be something else. Yeah. I mean, along the way. So,
but no one's ever told me that that's happened to them in the superintendent's mansion.
Right.
It's never happened in the psychiatric hospital. It's never happened in the tunnels.
It's only happened in the same place.
In the tuberculosis hospital, which later became the administration building, on the first floor at the base of the stairs.
It's insane.
So
it's that spot.
Like, I can't explain that. So maybe. I mean, maybe there's a mold thing, but why would it only affect women instead of?
That's true. That is very, very true. And I'm not saying there's mold in your building. I don't want you to think that I'm saying that.
I'm sure there is.
But I find it interesting that, you know, it is mostly, I don't think I've ever read where it's a male figure that has gotten sick and dizzy. I could probably be the first. I mean, I'm very heightened, feminine, sensitive.
I'm going to take him there just to test it out and see which one of us.
But I don't really know you that well.
It's okay. Let me have it. It's okay. Everybody else does. If Jen was here, it'd be 10 times worse. She'd be calling me a wuss, and I'd need a diaper, and it's a whole thing. So can we jump over to Billie Creek and talk about Billie Creek for a little bit? And once again, one of the most notable places in Indiana that people love to go visit is that amazing village. I mean, I didn't know anything about it until the Rocker Chick did a episode on it and her story about all that stuff. But can you break down kind of what all you guys have got there? What are you guys planning for? And you talked about the coffee shop, which I think is a really nice new add-on. But what is some of the things you guys are planning on doing with Billie Creek here going forward?
Well, Billie Creek, the reason that we took over Billie Creek, the guy that owned it, his dad kind of ran it, and his dad passed away about, 15, 16 years ago now. And his mother is still alive. So he kind of ran it because it was like a legacy to his dad. But his heart wasn't in it anymore.
Right.
And he just hadn't really done anything with it for probably the last 10 or so years. He heard that some guys were doing a historic restoration of the buildings here at the sanatorium. And he called, we got in touch with him. And he said, I've got about 20 buildings here that need restoration. Would you be interested in taking over the project for us? So
right.
And one of the reasons that we did is because Billie Creek is really set up to do those large outdoor camping events that we wanted to do. They have 2 large bathroom facilities. They have a much better parking situation, better in and out for the garbage removal. And a lot of the buildings were ready to be used for different types of events that we would run there. So we bought it for that reason. But before we did, we brought our paranormal team with us, and they went through the property. And he told us paranormal experiences that had happened there, over the years.
Right.
And our team was able to confirm it. And they were like, yeah, this is a pretty hot spot. So to be able to do events during the day and then paranormal investigation at night made it economically viable for us to acquire the property, restore it, bring new events back, do paranormal investigating in the evenings. We do public events there now where, we'll have 30, 40, 50 people come to an event that someone else is coordinating and go from there. Things that we're planning to do from there are not necessarily paranormal.
Right.
Nature. We just a couple weeks ago had a big Civil War reenactment. We had about 400 reenactors out here. We had 30 horses. So they had like a cavalry charge across the field at each other.
Oh my God. That's awesome.
About 20 cannons. So they had about, I think on the battlefield was about 250 guys shooting their guns at each other, blowing the cannons, horses running by, smoke going everywhere. I mean, it's a pretty interesting event to experience. And on Saturday this year, we had about just under 1,000 spectators that came out. And then it rained a lot on Saturday. We had to cancel it for Sunday.
Oh.
But last year we had, about that many on Saturday and on Sunday. So those kinds of events just generates revenue for us to be able to hire more guys, buy more equipment, put new roofs on buildings, that kind of thing. This year we booked an event we've never hosted before. We'll see how it goes. It's for 3 weekends, and it's a Renaissance fair. But instead of Renaissance, it's Western.
Oh.
So instead of like a jousting tournament, there's going to be like a gunfight in the street.
Oh, fuck.
There's an Annie Oakley kind of gal that like stands on a horse and shoots her guns and hits targets or whatever. I don't know. I haven't experienced it yet, but those are the kinds of things we do at Billie Creek.
All right, I'm gonna pause you for a minute.
Sure.
Because I looked at your calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Because you guys have it listed on your website. What is the time travel?
Time Travelers Weekend.
Yes.
So we have a young lady who volunteers for us. She stays at Billie Creek a lot of the time. She has a van that she has converted into like living quarters. And she created a language that BBC picked up and uses for the Doctor Who series. So she created a language called Gallifreyan. It's a pictorial language. And so she is paid by the BBC channel as a creator for the Doctor Who show. So she is the spearhead for this Time Travelers Weekend. She has a variety of guests that are coming. It's a smaller show. This is the first year we're doing it. So a lot of her guests are people that do the voiceovers for video games, that kind of a thing. And she called it Time Travelers because it's all time periods. So there's, panels that are going to be about science fiction stuff. So Star Wars, Star Trek, that kind of thing. Steampunk stuff, which is fictitious in the past. Doctor Who stuff, obviously.
Right.
And so she's going to have a series of panels, and she's got a whole bunch of vendors booked that have, that kind of eclectic stuff. And when you sign up for her event and you buy your tickets, you're going to get like special money that she made. So she's having a mint make like coined money.
Wow.
So she's got like a $1 coin, a $5 coin, a $10 coin, a $20 coin. And that coin is what is going to be used throughout the event. So you could go to the food vendor and get a burger and give them, one of the coins that you got. So if the ticket's like, I don't know what her pricing structure is yet, but if the ticket's $50, then she's going to give you $50 worth of money to spend, and you could use it at one of the vendors to buy, tchotchkes or costumes or whatever, or you could use it at one of the food vendors, or you could use it. I think they might be having a silent auction. She's doing all kinds of stuff that you would see at other conventions because she goes to conventions. She goes to 20 or 25 or 30 conventions a year as a celebrity because she created this language that's used in Doctor Who. And she has a lot of artwork that she sells. And so she just wanted to have her own convention at a location that she holds near and dear to her heart.
Right.
So that she'd be able to celebrate, the thing that she's passionate about. So.
Well, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I once again, I'm speechless. I love that. I absolutely love that. I don't think there's much you've said today that I don't really enjoy here. So
a lot of why we bought this stuff, me to a lesser extent, Greg to a greater extent, he's the money guy. He wants to have fun doing stuff. So, we could rent the bed and breakfast when it's done for the weekend, and we could make, X thousands of dollars doing it. But he plans to block off a weekend and not make that money to have his friends over to have a big board game night in the bed and breakfast, and invite some of his friends from around the country to come out here and hang out at his cool property. The sword fighting events that we run, the Time Travelers event, those are fun things that we like to do. And we like to host those events so that they go seamlessly because we've been to those events. I've been to Renaissance fairs and stuff. And when they're disorganized creatively, the structure isn't well and flow of traffic doesn't work and you can't find the bathrooms and, I'm hungry, but there's only one food vendor and he sells hamburgers for $29. And, so having experienced all that and running events, we know what works and what doesn't. We want to promote tourism. The big thing that we're doing for Park County, Indiana is tourism. We bring tens of thousands of visitors here every year that spend tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in this county at the gas stations, the restaurants, the fast food places. The first sword fighting event we had, the liquor store called us and said, we ran out of booze. Can you please tell us the next time you're having one of these events so we can stock up?
Right.
We're out of booze.
Swords, I don't know.
There's the look.
So, promoting tourism, running good events, having people come and say, man, we went to your thing and we had a lot of fun.
Right.
That's kind of what we're looking to do. So.
Yeah, well, as many as you guys are putting on, I mean, you guys are experts. You're like the Chick-fil-A of.
Well, I started a group in 1994 and ran events up until just a few years ago, and I ran about 20 events a year. I bought a campground so that I could run my events on my campground. We built more structures. It was a medieval reenactment kind of a thing.
Right.
So we built a castle that we could do our stuff in, and we had cabins that people could leave stuff there. So the same customers would come, and so we had lockers and closets that they could leave bedding and some of their equipment, so they didn't have to haul it back and forth every time.
Right.
Built new facilities to make it, easier and better for what we're doing. So yeah, we've been doing this for, 25, 30 years, 100 years if you add up all of our experience, from
right.
So.
Well, it sounds like it. And because the way that you talk about the different aspects of it that we don't think of as, even if we go to events, or whether, to be honest, we've put on a couple of events of our own, and you don't think, you're thinking about the main stage and this and that, and you forget about the parking flow and where people are going to park, and where you put your bathrooms, and how's that going to work, and who's going to clean that bathroom when it's done. I mean, all those things you don't think about when you're planning it.
Some of our events are 7 days long.
Right.
So those bathrooms need to be cleaned a minimum of twice a day.
Right.
So that's 14 times somebody has to go clean those bathrooms for each bathroom. And that just takes coordination,
Yep.
And it takes staff. It takes a support crew, The guy we bought Billie Creek from didn't have a staff of 20 that he could rely on to run events. And some people focus on parking. Some people focus on admissions. Some people focus on cleaning the bathrooms.
Right.
Getting food trucks in there was a huge thing for us because, we weren't really able to cook food for that many people. But we had to put in power so food, because all food trucks need to be able to plug in,
right?
And they need water and sewer, and so they can wash dishes, and so we put in all that infrastructure so that events can run smoothly. Because we don't want the customers to be like, well, how much did it take for them to put food available to us? And we just want them to go to the bathroom when they have to go to the bathroom. We don't want them to be like, try to have to find the one place where there's a porta potty,
Right.
So we have bathrooms spread out throughout the whole property. So when you have to go to the bathroom, there's usually one within, a few steps where you're at. So
nice. It's unbelievable, the thought process you guys have put into all of this. I applaud you guys for everything you guys are doing down there. I love it. I'm learning so much. I mean, I know we really haven't touched on a whole lot. Can we talk a little paranormal of Billie Creek?
Yes.
I know that the church is a major hotspot, correct? Or no, not the church, the schoolhouse?
The Civil War House.
The Civil War House.
The schoolhouse is active as well. So the Billie Creek has about 35 buildings. Most of all of them were moved there. Mm-hmm. There's no building that was built there from scratch, except for there's a pavilion that has power insides and stuff that was built there. But everything else was moved there. And if you believe in ghosts, some people believe that a ghost can attach themselves to the house. So if you pick up the house and move it, the ghost goes with it. So one of the things that always happened at Billie Creek was there's a big white house, which we call the Civil War House. Okay. It was built right before the Civil War happened in the 1840s. And that location has always had activity. So when Billie Creek was open in the 70s and 80s, you could go there at night and order chicken and dumplings dinner, and they cooked it there and served you out of the house. And the ladies that served that, I met them when we took over Billie Creek. There was 5 ladies. They said, "Hey, we're the chicken and dumplings ladies," and they experienced stuff in that house every day. And they had to clean up after the cooking, and they did it really, really fast because they didn't want to be in that building at night because it was too freaky. It was so bad that the owners hired a paranormal team to come out and do an investigation, and they wrote a report on what they found, and he paid them. And I think like $5,000 in 2005. He paid them money to come out and do an investigation. And I think what he really wanted, he wanted like an exorcism. He wanted them to clean the building out so that the ladies would stay there and finish cleaning it. Because they would come up and they'd be like, "Yeah, it's starting to get dark. We're done. We'll come back tomorrow and clean up." And they would leave the dishes out overnight because they didn't want to be in the building at night. So when we have paranormal teams that come out, over half of the reports to me are from that building. So we have 35 buildings there. but 50% of the paranormal activity that gets reported to me comes from that one building. Now, the schoolhouse is also a very active building. When we took over, they had a newspaper article in the window. And you can't tell in Italian, but I'm using my hands a lot. I'm doing it down here so it doesn't distract you. But there was a newspaper article in the window, and in the article it was saying Billie Creek Village, all these buildings were moved over here, and the schoolhouse is haunted by some children. And there was a picture in the newspaper article of the schoolhouse, and in the window you could see a little like spectral figure of a child.
Right.
And they talked about that being, something that happened there frequently. And the paranormal teams that have gone there have had activity in that schoolhouse. And everyone that I've talked to about it has told me that it was a child, that they contacted the spirit of a child that was in that building. There are 2 churches on the property, a Catholic church and a Baptist church. Both, again, they were moved from parts of the county here, so they're not consecrated anymore. Both of those buildings have had activity. And there's another house there that the 10th governor of Indiana lived in. We call it the governor's house or the governor's manor. And for some reason, that building is also very active. So we've had teams that come out and they split into pairs and they go to all the different buildings. Hey, meet back here in an hour.
Right.
And they all have had activity in all their buildings. So.
Well, that's cool.
It is cool. When you go into the schoolhouse though, and I'm trying to think back, was it Project Fear or Destination Fear, whichever version of that group was? I thought that they had said something about there was some movement in the floorboards a little bit, that I wonder if maybe that would cause the sensation of, but I mean, being right there, have you been in there? Have you felt any of that as far as any movement in the floor, as far as just the?
Yes, that building is very old. For many, many, many years, it was used to store hay in.
Oh, really?
So I think that it was, there was always moisture in the building and stuff like that. The floors are a little bouncy, which just means that the joists underneath may have rotted where the board touches the joist.
Right.
Rotted a little bit, so it's a little bouncy like that. I don't know how that would affect activity.
Yeah, I feel it. It's once again okay, and you proclaim not ghost believer, who likes to debunk things, and your friend CJ. How much do we freak ourselves out by thinking we saw, or that maybe the floor is just a slight bit? I'm not saying anything bad on the schoolhouse floor. I don't want it to sound like that. Maybe there's a little bit of a bounce, or maybe it's not 100% level, which now in turn takes you got vertigo, which I'm being I'm being taken over by the spirit. I just find that when we're in those situations, you can tend to freak yourself out more by thinking you've seen something or thinking you heard something. And I mean, I believe, don't get me wrong, I'm a believer. We have seen things, we have heard about things, and I don't think you can debunk everything. I think there is an afterlife. I think more hauntings are residual, like you talk about with, the floors at the sanatorium. You hear something above. How do you know that's not just residual? It's something that just keeps replaying over and over in time. It doesn't make them malicious. It doesn't make them evil. It just makes them echo over and over and over again. But I mean, that's what I'm getting at with that is like, you hear this and you think, well, I want to talk to somebody who's actually been in that building. And is there a little bit of a fluctuation in the floor that would cause you to think that you are, something's happening?
Yeah. I don't know about the floor specifically, but I absolutely believe that if you're looking for something, you're more likely to find it.
Right.
And if you're not looking for something, like if I go into buildings and I go, ghosts don't exist, and something happens, and I go, well, that wasn't a ghost because ghosts don't exist. So I think it can go both ways.
Right.
I think that people go there and they're expecting something, and then, a raccoon scratches the roof and they freak themselves out because like, oh my God, something just happened, or, like people say, especially in the 5-story, that they get scratches, I think you've heard that.
Right.
Well, they cut the ceilings apart to take the asbestos off the pipes. Well, there are places where there's metal. And I think if you get freaked out and you kind of run, that it's possible that you could run past the metal and the adrenaline, and then later you're like, oh my God, I got scratched.
Yeah. Why is it so hurt? Why does this hurt? And why is it red?
Yeah. So I think that if you're a believer and you're looking for something, you could find it.
Right.
Well, it's like anything, like romance, if you believe that I'm looking for love and I want to go out and I want to meet somebody, and then you meet somebody and it's like you knew it. But if you're like, nah, love doesn't exist, I'm never going to meet anybody. I'm never going to meet anybody. And you never do. Well, you were right. If you're looking for it, you can find it and you're right. And if you're not looking for it, you won't find it and you're right. So, I think looking for ghosts, believing in religion, looking for love, I think there's a lot of different things, that you could look at in the same light. And if you have faith that what you're looking for is findable, you're more likely to find it. So I definitely think that somebody walking in the schoolhouse expecting to find a ghost could find it. And maybe, like you said, maybe the floor is a little unlevel and it gives you a little bit of vertigo, and that gives you kind of an uneasy feeling, which makes you think that there's a ghost in the room that's giving you an uneasy feeling.
Right. I mean, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm a believer that certain people see things or can feel things, but I believe there's ghosts, but I have never seen one. I don't think I'm open enough to see it. So, if that makes sense.
Well, some experts tell me that only 10% of people can sense paranormal activity without any equipment.
Right.
So, you believe in ghosts, rocker chick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in ghosts, but neither one of us has seen it. But maybe it's because we're in the 90%.
That's right.
And maybe somebody else who's in the 10%, they walk in the same room the same time we do, and they see something that we don't. I believe that could happen.
Oh, I believe it happens. I believe it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Definitely with us. All right, so let me spin this one more shot here.
Sure.
So not a ghost, but not a believer in ghosts. Do you believe in aliens? Because we talked and you brought up aliens a couple times. I'm just curious, what's your spin on aliens?
I don't believe that aliens have been around and they've abducted people for centuries. Area 51, that kind of thing. I don't necessarily believe in that. I mean, what are the chances that of all of the millions of universes out there and all the planets that this is the only one that's sparked life?
Right.
I think, from a scientific standpoint, it's unlikely that we're the only planet that has life on it. Do I believe that they fly around in spaceships and have battles like many shows we've seen, or that they visit our planet like Close Encounters of a Third Kind or E.T.? I don't necessarily believe in that.
Right on.
But I can't say that it doesn't happen. Just like I can't say that ghosts don't happen.
Right.
I can't say that there isn't a God. There's some things that you just take on faith,
Right. Absolutely. Steve, this has been fucking amazing. I have enjoyed every minute of this, and I thank you so much for coming on and doing our little podcast.
If you want to do an episode about the Stark Saloon or about, any other property that we have, I'm happy to come back.
I will
most definitely.
I will get a hold of you. We will figure something out.
Great.
We need to filter through some things we got going on because we're at this point we're freaking crazy busy.
Yeah.
In case you didn't know, I know we worked through Brian to get to you, but a lot of our guests that we've got, the last one and a couple more we got coming up our other host, who we call J-Dub, Jennifer, she did live in a haunted house for 7 years, was attacked, and pushed down the stairs, broke her arm and a couple ribs and so on and so forth. Anyways, long story short, A Haunting did an episode on her show. A documentary guy from Ohio loved that episode, actually wanted to do an episode with her. And we've been very, very fortunate that her episode is at 2.3 million views.
Wow.
So we are fortunate enough to be able to get some of the people coming over from that documentary. And so, yeah, we've got a few guests lined up that a couple of weeks ago we had a lady from Newport, Rhode Island that was telling us about her experiences. So it's been kind of crazy, but I definitely want to get back with you. I want to have you back in here again.
Yes, this was very enjoyable.
Yes. And hopefully if we can get something worked out, maybe we'll come visit. You're not too far away from us.
Yeah, no.
So
you're welcome to come down anytime.
All right. We will put something together.
All right.
Could you give us the information for all of this for our listeners so they can look you guys up? You
Sure.
have a Facebook.
Go to Haunted Indiana State Sanatorium or Haunted Billie Creek on Facebook. That's how you could book for the overnight experience. And then we also have web pages, indianastatesanatorium.com and billiecreek.com for information about other events that we are doing.
Great.
Yeah, they got the full calendar on Billie Creek. So I mean, you guys, you got Oktoberfest coming up in October for like a long. I mean, what is it? Is that 2 or 3 weeks?
So we have an Oktoberfest event, which is one of our sword fighting events, which is for about 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
And then immediately following that, this county is known for doing the Covered Bridge Festival.
Okay.
There's 31 covered bridges.
Wow.
And pre-COVID, so it's a 10-day festival as well. Pre-COVID, they had between 1.5 and 2 million visitors to the county.
Oh, wow.
That came out here. There's 4 different locations that have food trucks and vendors, and some of them are more crafty, like stuff that's built.
Uh-huh.
Some of them are more like flea markets. But it's nonstop. People, all day long. So October is our busiest month by far. And then we go right from there into Halloween. So all of our events are booked solid for all of our Halloween events. So
Right.
Very cool.
Yes.
October is our crazy month.
Yeah. It's a little strenuous here too.
But we have 2 big 10-day events that don't have anything to do with haunting. In October. It just happens to be in October.
Right.
It's autumn, and that's a great time to get out.
It is. Absolutely. Well, Steve, thank you very much. And keep in contact. Just let me know how things are going.
Okay, I will.
All right. Thank you so much. Hey, everybody. Thank you for checking out the United States of Paranormal podcast. Go check us out on our website, the UnitedStatesOfParanormal.com, where you can find all of your merch. Or as always, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/2sop. And you know the rest. You know where to go. Go check it out. Go check out Steve's stuff. He just gave it to you. If you need it to me, it'll be in the show notes. I'm going to definitely put it in there. All right, guys. Until next week, keep it spooky, and I'll see you on the other side.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the United States of Paranormal podcast. Check us out at UnitedStatesOfParanormal.com, where you can find our Spotlight of the Month, Fan of the Month, and all of our amazing merchandise. Or you can find us on social media at Facebook at the United States of Paranormal, Instagram at the United States of Paranormal, and YouTube at the United States of Paranormal 1795. And don't forget, we are now on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/2sop.
Please check out the other podcasts in the Golden Mojo Entertainment Network of podcasts. The Call Guys, Golden Image Podcast, Indiana Chiefs Fans, Golden 80s, The Gridiron Kings, Murd Nerds, and A Quart of Books and Booze, all of which can be found at goldenmojoent.com or wherever you stream your favorite podcasts.
And if you have a location or a story that you would like for us to check into, please email us at theunitedstatesofparanormal@gmail.com. Please like, rate, and subscribe wherever you listen. Thank you for all of your support. Bye.